Welcome in to another episode of Three True Values Big Board. We've got Jamie Shaw joining us here this week to talk about some of the sophomore jumps across college basketball. Which of these stars last year was not quite at the level to go one and done, but has really taken a leap forward this season as they continue to build their resume, continue to round out their game. There's a lot of them here, a lot of big performances. I know it's been the year of the freshmen. We've talked at length about that group of players, but these sophomores, these guys coming back, adding to their game, have also made a big impact early. So, Jamie, thanks for joining us. Thanks for getting into this. Let's talk about some NBA draft prospects here.
Man, for sure, it's awesome. This is my favorite time of the year. I love the speculation and conversation, and I love telling the story from start to finish. And as things continue to ebb and flow, and we're starting to get a sample size here. It's still relatively small, about 6 to 8 games in, but the sample size is starting to form, and we're starting to see patterns and trends, and able to talk about what we're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's kind of make our way from guard down to the big spots, and we'll start where I think we kind of have to start at that point guard spot with Labaron Philon coming back for his sophomore season at Alabama. He was obviously a guy who really heavily considered going one and done, even announced he was doing so, and then at the last second withdraws from the draft, goes back to Alabama, and we've seen some really good growth from him. I've thought through these early weeks of the season.
No, for sure. It's been he's been great, averaging 20 points, 5.6 assists through his 7 games. 5 of the 7 games he's gone into 20 points plus. You're really seeing him come into his own confidence. Now, there's still he's still on the smaller side of guard play, but what you see from him is somebody who's able to consistently get past the initial line of defense and collapse at defense, and he's starting to make the read. The second defender's coming on, and he's reacting toward whether or not to get all the way to the basket and finish, floater, spraying the ball to teammates and all that type of stuff. The spacing that Alabama plays with helps him a lot with his crafty nature and his ability to get where he wants off the bounce. But what you're seeing is him come into the game. The game is processing quicker for him, and a lot of that's coming from confidence. He's used to what he's doing. He's used to the teammates around him. And, Alabama's played, 5 or so high major games already. And outside of the Purdue game, Philon's been awesome in all of them. Going for what he's scored and being, dictating kind of the pace of the play on the court, especially in the second half of games during closing time.
Yeah, he's a guy who, uh, when you break down film, obviously you're watching the entirety of the game. You're watching over the course of multiple games. You want to see good games that he had, bad games that he had. But there's one play that keeps sticking in my mind from this season that is kind of the ultimate difference between his freshman season to his sophomore season to me. And it came, I can't even remember right now exactly. I think it was the Illinois game, but I can't remember exactly which game it was. Might have been Purdue even. But he had the ball, top of the key. He comes down, beats the initial defender, and he gets to just above the free throw line. And he's reading. You can see it in real time. He's reading the second line of the defense. He sees the center and he adjusts. He says, okay, the center has come up. This guard is dropping back. So now I'm going to hit a step back three. And the ability to pull that off is something that was just not part of his game. The 3-point shot is something that he's continuing to develop.
That
And
might have been St. John's because I think he
St.
had a
John's,
play.
I think
I
that
think he
is
had a
when it
similar
was.
play to that, either 2 plays before or 2 plays after, where he did something
Yes.
very similar.
Yes, that's what it was because it was he had a play right around there where he made a different read off of the same situation, but he hit the open man, and then he comes in and he hits the step back three, and I was so impressed with just the growth in his processing to go from a guy who was playing a lot off the ball last year to someone who was making that decisive and confident of a decision in a big moment in a big game there. I was really impressed by that, and I think it has really exemplified just that extra leap that he's taken with the ball in his hand so far this season.
Yeah, the thing for me is the slippery handle. I just think that he's got one of those handles that is just very, very difficult to stay in front of. Obviously, he's got really good length. He's got nice positional height in probably the 6'2" range, very thin. The jump shots coming around, he's shooting at a pretty good clip so far through this but the slippery handle is something that I think that he's going to consistently be able to move forward with, creating advantages for himself. The reads are coming along, all that type of stuff's helping, and everything, but that slippery handle is unique, I feel like, especially amongst his peers.
Yeah, for sure. And as we know, getting paint touches as the point guard, very important. And he's able to do that in a couple of different ways. He can get that explosive downhill. Like you said, the handle gets him to those spaces as well. If he can continue to make the right reads out of those spots, he's going to continue to rise up even further in this conversation towards the lottery. Rob Wright is another one at BYU, who I'm not sure how much his NBA stock has risen so far this season, but he has continued to take that leap forward that we expected from him. He's kind of an organizer, kind of the engine that keeps this BYU team running, and has been a key piece in surrounding AJ DeBonsa so far.
Looking at Rob Wright this year, kind of what he did 2 years ago as well at the Montverde team when he played with Derek Queen and Cooper Flagg and all those guys. He needs to right the ship, call his spots, but he's got two studs beside him. Richie Saunders and AJ DeBanster are two of probably the 15 best players in college basketball so far this season. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how they continue to figure themselves out, their roles out and everything when it comes to initiation, because you got Kevin Young, who is in a NBA mold where, initiation comes from wing, self-creation, all that type of stuff. And AJ and Richie can both do that. Rob finding his role within the process of this team is going to be very interesting to see. Obviously, he's on the smaller side, 6-footish type of guard, not super bursty, but he's got some twitch to him when it comes to his first step. Needs to become a more consistent jump shooter, but he's kind of got that it factor. He's got that it factor that you need from a point guard, that bravado that brings the best out of people. Finding his role within this team, not doing too much, but doing enough to keep defenses honest is going to be interesting to see how he continues to move forward.
Yeah, and he does remind me kind of the consummate backup NBA point guard, not in necessarily the style of play he uses at any given moment, but it's the fact that he is the organizer. He's okay being the third or fourth option on the floor, that he doesn't have to go and get his shot. He understands, okay, AJ DeBonsa and Richie Saunders are on either wing. That means that the best play for me is to figure out how to get them the ball and create the proper spacing. That's something that's so valuable at that next level when you're asked to come in and provide 10 spot minutes to come in and play with guys who are veterans who have an established scoring role on a team. And just to be out there and be solid, be a guy who people want to be out there on the floor with you, that goes a long way as a young point guard at the next level.
Yeah, for me, he reminds me of those early 2000s college point guards, the Mateen Cleaves, Khalid El-Amins of the world. Just kind of, he has that factor to him as to where you look individually at the pieces, it might not all be there, but you look at the collective whole as to what he brings, and it's just a winning nature.
For sure. We moved here to a couple of guys who play a little bit more off the ball sometimes. I want to talk about Isaiah Evans at Duke, and we know that the 3-point shot is there. He's added some levels to his scoring this year, more and more, has been a real go-to option on that end for this Duke team. But the defense is still, I think it's been probably better this year than it was as a freshman, but it's going to have to continue to come along if he's going to find the right mold to have a big impact at the next level.
I'm not sure if there's anybody in college basketball so far this season that's led the nation in getting straight line downhill and going up for a dunk. He has absolutely no way that he's going to be able to finish, and throwing it at the rim and getting the foul called on him. It's good to see the aggression when it comes to the straight line drives. Isaiah Evans is morphing his game and changes his game. So far, throughout his career, he's been a jump shooter, somebody who puts zero pressure on the rim, does not move the ball, all that type of stuff. Now he's learning to still be a jump shooter and use his superpower, but how to become a well-rounded scorer. Somebody who can be a lethal movement shooter. Somebody who can get 12 shots in a game, get to his spots, and be able to play off of somebody to knock down those shots. The thing with him is going to be finding that consistency, finding those spots and finding those shots and knocking down those shots that he gets, the consistency in that, but also rounding out the rest of his game. Mm-hmm. Not a great rebounder, not a great defender, not a great ball mover. Those are things that stay consistent with what he is as a player, but he brings value in one of the most valuable aspects of the game of basketball when it comes to that movement shooting, when it comes to pulling gravity, when it comes to making shots in the 6'6" range with plus wingspan. as well. There's a lot of value that comes in that, and a lot of value of somebody if you can just get to be good enough in moving the ball, good enough on the defensive end of the floor. That shot diet could be incredibly valuable. What he's got to do is hone that in and learn that shot diet, learn the spots, learn how to get to those spots, and be consistent in being able to do that. And it seems that it's been up and down. Last year, obviously, he came in, 2-3 minute stretches, shoot as many shots as you possibly can, come on out, and we'll go from there. He's being more of a featured guy this year. I think Duke's still figuring out the rotations when it comes to the wing position.
Yeah.
Him being part of that when it comes to Dame Sarr, when it comes to Nick Kamenia, when it comes to Isaiah Evans getting the best quality on the floor. And I think Isaiah is almost having to break his game down a little bit to build it back up, to get the most value out of him in efficiency.
Yeah, I think that's right. And like I said, it might be that his value early for sure is going to come on the offensive end. There's no question about that. And so does somebody bet on that offensive punch that you're talking about? We've seen him now in two different types of offensive roles, taking on this bigger role last year, but he was that guy who comes in 2-3 minutes, just get up as many threes as you can in that amount of time, still going to knock down a high rate of them, and then you come on out and we'll get somebody else in there. That's something that you see guys do at the next level. So does he kind of break in that way? But then obviously the ceiling for what he can be still requires a little bit more movement around the perimeter, a little bit more on the defensive side of the floor. I want to talk now about Carter Knox at Arkansas because it's been a little bit up and down, I think, from what I've seen from him so far. That's kind of the story of his college career to this point. It hasn't been a consistent upward trajectory, but it also hasn't been just all below what we thought. There's been these times where we think that it's figured out. End of last year, I really thought that it was kind of that leap. He was ready to come into this season and be the consistent go-to guy. It hasn't necessarily happened that way. I know that there's a lot that goes on around that, but consistency is the word for me with Carter Knox and what he has to do to get to the next level.
Yeah, and it's kind of a tough situation for Carter to be in because he's playing the wing with a group of guards that are very interesting when it comes to getting others involved. You have Malik Thomas, who is a straight line aggressive downhill guy. You have Darius Acuff, who dribbles a lot and kind of takes momentum out of the ball. And then you have DJ Wagner trying to fit his way in there. That kind of three-headed monster, not a monster, but that three-headed what they have at the guard spot can be difficult for the other players on the court to get involved and get into a rhythm and all that. And you're seeing that a little bit with Carter Knox. Great in transition. He took a step this summer, and the skill set we see is there. Self-creation in the half court was a big question. Jump shooting was a big question. We haven't really been able to see the answers to that because of the usage that Acuff and Malik Thomas and DJ Wagner all have on the ball when they're on the floor with that. So, yeah, the numbers haven't been great for him, and there's been even times when Carter Knox has been bad, but it's still kind of an incomplete grade that you're able to give him with the makeup and construct of this team, still trying to figure out their roles and their positionings.
For sure. Cameron Carr, another one, who technically his third year of college, but he did redshirt one season at Tennessee. I don't think there has been a bigger leap in the sport of college basketball than what Cameron Carr is doing. And he's such an interesting one because last season, I vividly remember different people from the draft community, different people who kind of evaluate these things. They would whisper to me, they'd be like, "Oh, Cameron Carr, that's a guy. He's going to be big breakout, big breakout." And I was kind of like, okay. And I like to see a couple games sample before I kind of, get on board with these things. Obviously, he's got the look, the makeup. But I was like, all right, let's see what he does. Well, it was like 4 points per game, couple games into the season, and then he red shirts and he transfers. And I was like, okay, well, that was a swing and miss by whoever told me that. And then this year, I almost didn't pay as much attention to him as I should have because of how last year started. And wow, I mean, he has figured it out at Baylor. He's in a system that clearly fits him. The scoring punch is undeniable from that wing spot. I'm really impressed, and I think he can continue to raise up the board because the efficiency that he's doing it at is really impressive.
Very interesting player. He was a late bloomer coming out of high school, really took off his senior year at Link Academy, jumping into the top 75 of rankings after being unranked as the senior season started. Son of a former NBA player. He's 6'6", 6'7". He's springy and lengthy. He has the makeup. He has the physical look of a wing at the next level. Now he's shooting 50+% from three. Now he's taking on the top of the scouting report and making adjustments. He's a very modern day type of player right now. Everything at the rim twos and catch and shoot threes. Developing off the bounce, getting a middle game and pace and everything will be next steps with that. But when you have his physical makeup with his length and his positional size to go along with the shooting touch and the athleticism and explosion getting downhill, continuing to develop the rest of that game will continue to come and continue to morph. But the usage that he's taken on, 20 plus per game, 50+% from three, obviously probably won't sustain those numbers, I would have to assume. But as he even regresses to the mean, there's so much there and exactly what an NBA wing does, the marks that he checks, and everything like that. Like you said, the 3-point shooting at the rim twos, the athletic burst, the upside to continue to grow it is all there. So he's a fascinating player and somebody who's firmly put himself in lottery talk.
Yeah, he feels like a guy. I mean, we see it every year. There's these guys that we haven't seen the on-court production, and it suddenly arrives. And then we look at, like you said, the physical makeup, the athleticism, all of the tools that they bring, and they just keep rising up the board all the way through until the summer. So he feels like he really could be that player this time of year. And I think that to your point on his efficiency probably coming a little bit back down to earth over the course of the year. If you're a Baylor fan, I think you can still be really excited because Tunde Yusufu, their freshman on the wing, his efficiency hasn't quite been up to where you would expect it to be so far. So if they can kind of get a little bit of a raise to the mean with him, even if Carr comes down a little bit, I think you're going to be just fine as a Baylor fan. Juke Harris at Wake Forest is another one that we both had on our list here to talk about. 6'7" guy, athlete. I've really just been impressed by the leap that he's taken this year. Another one of these candidates for the biggest jump from what he did as a freshman to what he's doing this year.
For sure. And Juke's somebody who in the ranking process throughout high school, we had very high early on. And then he went to a more local, stayed at his local high school, Salisbury High School, where he was the biggest player on most courts that he went on. So he would play around the basket, do all that type of stuff up and down senior year, when it came to production and motor and just being able to evaluate when it went to that. 6'7", a guy who can dribble, shoot, and pass to an advantage. I mean, there's so much value there that you see. He's playing physically. I think the fact that being the biggest player on the floor has helped him when it comes to rebounding, when it comes to positional off-ball defense type stuff that he's showing this year that he's able to do. Again, 6'6", 6'7", long arms. He can put it on the deck for a couple dribbles, create an advantage off the bounce for himself. He can knock down a jump shot from any spot along the 3-point arc. And he moves the ball pretty well as well. He's looking to be somebody right now who's finishing plays. He's getting the ball in the wing and finishing plays in the offensive structure. I'm fascinated to see what it continues to look like because he has had a really, really good start to the season.
Yeah, he definitely has, and it's been a real refreshing burst for this Wake Forest team. I've thought that when I talked to some people around the Wake Forest program before the season and, talking to them about some of the transfers that came in, some of the incoming freshmen, and they stopped me at the very start of the conversation and they said, well, like we can talk about all these guys, but Juke Harris is about to take a leap. And they were right. So this is something that's been in the works that they've seen behind the scenes coming. And that's always a good sign because that means that not only are they growing as a basketball player, but they're putting in the work to where the staff is willing to go to bat for them before it even translates out there on the floor. They're seeing the work put in on a day-to-day basis. Another guy here in the ACC that I want to talk about is Donnie Freeman at Syracuse. He was a guy who last year dealt with injuries, had some ups and downs in his production, but also in just the results. Obviously, that Syracuse team struggled throughout the course of that season. That injury setback, I really thought kind of hampered what was starting to be a breakout from him. He had strung together a couple of good results. He ends up sitting on the bench, injured for a long stretch of that season. and it kind of just killed any momentum that he had. But Freeman is a guy who, despite him kind of slowly falling down draft boards last year, I still have a lot of belief in kind of the prototype, the archetype that he falls under. I really like just the lengthy power forward who can do a little bit of everything and shows some potential to kind of have another leap in his game. We haven't seen the type of leap that we're talking about with these last two guys so far from him in terms of the counting stats, but the Syracuse team as a whole has looked a lot more competent, a lot more competitive, and I think that part of that is his growth as he continues to fill out.
Yeah, the thing with Donnie is he's just got to stay healthy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he hit that injury last year. He's already had an injury, missed games to injury this year as well. He's got a lot of tools, man. 6'9" or so, plus length. He can stretch the floor. He has touch. And he's got some defensive versatility, defensive upside when it comes to both guarding the ball, being able to switch down and be a factor toward the rim as well. There's just a lot of stuff there. There's just a lot, as we know at the highest levels of basketball, how do you complement the stars?
Mm-hmm.
What can you do to pull gravity and complement the superstars? And as a 6'9", 6'10" guy with length who can rebound, who can defend multiple spots as well as stretch the floor and shoot the ball, Donnie Freeman has a lot of stuff to his game. He just got to stay healthy and stay on the floor and get out there and continue to produce.
Yeah, for sure. Morez Johnson, another one. Talk about guys at the big spot who go to Michigan. It feels like it's the best bet in college basketball right now, even if he brings in three or four of you. Apparently, somehow, Dusty May has figured out how to play just a lineup of all centers, and it somehow still works with the spacing and everything. It's kind of remarkable to watch the way that he has kind of brought multiple bigs in the lineup into the college basketball game, and there's no denying the results. I mean, number one in the net rankings right now, top three in the AP poll. This is a Michigan team that looks really, really good, and Morris Johnson is a big piece of that in that front court.
Yeah, they're number one in my poll too. This week, obviously 30-point win, 40-point win, 30-point win at the Players Era. Won the championship there. Decidedly, what they did against Gonzaga was,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable what they did the last week during Feast Week. I don't know if I've ever seen a performance like that in college basketball. Just overall,
Yeah.
back to back to back against high major teams, good teams. At some point ranked in the top 25 this season already. Teams or around that, and just blowing the doors off of them.
Yeah. A
That being
40,
said,
30, and 40. Like it.
it's unbelievable.
It's,
Like I said, I don't know if I've ever seen that in college basketball, that type of performance against teams around the rankings. With that being said, Morez Johnson is a physical presence. What you see with him, what his superpower is, what he hangs his hat on, is the defensive presence that he has on the floor. He's able to
yeah.
guard, he's able to slide, and he is able to be a bully around the basket. When that comes to rebounding, when that comes to rim protection, when that comes to getting in the passing lanes, switching up and down, he's got the full gamut of a defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
Size will be interesting. What does he measure at the combine? But what he's able to do here at Michigan is he's kind of establishing some sort of offensive game.
Mm-hmm.
13 points a game, 50% from the field, all that type of stuff. He's establishing what he's able to do on the offensive end and growing it from there. Granted, all of that's around the basket.
Yeah.
But he's still able to find production on the offensive end of the floor, which is a huge step for him because defensively, he's able to anchor a team. He's at the collegiate level, he's able to anchor a team on the defensive end of the floor, moving that go to the pros, kind of a closing five that's able to switch and do all that type of stuff as well. Finding his offensive game is big for him. Continuing to do that as well is going to be big for establishes to what he's able to do at the next level. But looking at what the NBA values when it comes to the versatility on the defensive end of the floor, Colin Murray Boyles, obviously he had a little bit of passing stuff and a little bit of versatility when it came to ball in hand type stuff. But the defensive thing was what really took him into the lottery this past year. I'm not saying Morez Johnson's Colin Murray Boyles, but there's a lot of value in undersized bigs that can defend multiple spots on the floor, move their feet, slide up and down the lineup.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly where I was going to go is that I'm so interested in these kind of archetype guys where you look to the NBA and you can directly see the impact of players currently in the league who have had success over recent years impact the way that we view or the way that we value different players. And for Morez Johnson, I think that you look at the value that an Isaiah Stewart has had
Mm-hmm.
recently. Undersized guy. Now he has developed his offensive game quite a bit, but that's something that Stewart developed throughout his time in the NBA, even. So you're hoping that Johnson continues that trajectory as well. You look at Robert Williams, obviously a guy who was very defensive minded in the way that he plays. Again, these are not one to ones, but it's that undersized big who provides you a lot of versatility and can really anchor things on the defensive end.
Yeah, Montrezl Harrell and,
Yeah.
and Chuck Hayes, and the list goes on and on of this archetype of player finding success over the past 25 plus years of basketball, even more so these days when it comes to the value a versatile defender brings across the floor.
Yeah. A couple of guys who are more traditional bigs. Flory Badunga at Kansas, a guy who has taken a leap almost out of necessity with Darren Peterson on the sideline. He has been one of the go-to guys for this Kansas team in that absence. I think he'll continue to develop his game once Peterson comes back and he's able to play in that secondary role that he was kind of tabbed for this season.
Badunga's an interesting one. His calling cards, motor and just ridiculous athletic pop. His twitch is his second jump, his ability to slide and move and run front of the rim to front of the rim. He puts incredible pressure on the team because of his nonstop motor and his twitch. The skill set still developing. How does he consistently score? Not entirely sure. The shooting, not necessarily there. What he measures at the combine will be very interesting as well. Is he closer to 6'9" or 6'7"? The length is definitely there. But it's hard to ignore the value that he brings. He's kind of one of those guys that, we're able to slide archetypes, as you said just now. When you look at the highest level and all that type of stuff, sliding it into an archetype and what's already there, there's not really that many like that with Flory Badunga, but it's also very difficult to ignore what he does bring to the table when he is on the floor, the production that he brings, the gravity that he pulls toward the front of the rim, the gravity he pulls as a vertical floor spacer. And then what he does on the defensive end, the havoc that he wrecks when he's on the floor, is super intriguing. Now 30 teams don't have to love it. Mm-hmm. Just one does.
Right.
And it's going to be very interesting to see if the team falls in love with the tape when they put it on, of just him going, phew, 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 play, positive play, positive play, positive play, positive play. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. If I was going to, and I've done this exercise a little bit of thinking about the kind of players that I would fit him into the same category. And again, it's not one-to-one, but I look at very early career Clint Capella a little bit. Just the athletic motor, just getting up and down. He's a little bit smaller than what you would like. Obviously, Clint he filled out quite a bit during his time in the NBA. But I look at just a guy who was just zooming around. I think one of his first games in the NBA, he was put in the game just to commit 6 fouls against Dwight Howard. Like that was the guy that you sent out there to do that. Just give me a lot of energy and just make his life miserable out there on the court, whatever that means. If that means you foul out in 5 minutes, okay, we're cool with that. So I'm interested to see how Badunga continues to grow throughout the course of this season and then into his future. Ngongba, another one at the center position who is continuing to grow into his sophomore season at Duke. Both of these guys kind of took on a reserve role as freshmen and now kind of being given the starting spot here as sophomores. There's a lot of development left to go, I think, with Ngongba, but there's flashes there that I see that I really like.
Yeah, he does some things on the floor. The things that are most interesting with him that I've seen have been, he's made a couple passing reads that have been pretty interesting out of the high post and then knocking down a couple shots. It seems that Shire has confidence in him being able to take and make spot threes when it comes to that. He's going to have to figure out on the defensive end of the floor. He's pretty heavy-footed. Not entirely sure if he projects as a rim protector or even a defensive type player. What does that look like on the defensive end? Is a little bit, or rebounding the basketball, a little bit inconsistent there as well. And how does he consistently score? There are a lot of questions with Ngongba. And throughout the season watching, it's going to be interesting to differentiate between how much is his production coming as a product of these sets that John Shire is putting him in and the
Right.
situations John Shire is putting him in, and playing alongside Cam Boozer, who's one of the best
Yes.
passing bigs we have in college basketball. And how much of it's on his own accord.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's got the 6'10 stuff, and he is showing progression and everything as well. He's going to need to continue to do that. At least for me, I'm not quite seeing how it looks, but I think that he's in a great position to showcase the ceiling of what he's able to bring as a player when it comes to the team and the format of the team and the coach that he has and all that.
Yeah, I think that playing next to Boozer is very interesting for him and what we're going to be able to see because Boozer obviously a high level rebounder. And so he's not needed to necessarily get in there and mix it up every time to go get on the glass. Boozer also efficient from the block. So that does send him out towards the 3 point line more and more in some of these sets when they're getting the ball to Boozer. But then, of course, he's also got to get to the block when Boozer has the ball at the top of the key. And so he's having to learn a lot of things, I think, and kind of fit in this season around what Boozer does. We'll see how that continues to develop. Let's go ahead. Let's rapid fire through anyone else that we have left on our list here that we want to talk about in these final minutes.
Paul McNeil at NC State, somebody that I think is very interesting. If he's able to consistently make the jump shot as he has to start the season, 6'6" guy, prolific scorer. He kind of had to revamp his entire game and learn how to play the efficiency game when it comes to Will Wade's system. But there's a very real chance that playing off of Darion Williams, he's able to get a lot of clean looks, especially with the spacing that this NC State team brings. He's not a surefire NBA guy right now for this next, for the upcoming. But I'm very interested to see the steps he takes because he could be.
Yeah, I'm looking at Christian Anderson at Texas Tech. Another one of these guys, a little bit undersized to play point guard at the next level, but he's got the burst. I think that he's looked really good working with JT Toppin. He continues to build that relationship out on the court. His assist numbers are high. A guy who's played internationally already in his career. And so impressed with him, impressed with his continued growth. And I think that he's a guy with an upward trajectory that could get him in the conversation, even though he doesn't necessarily meet that height checkbox that we look at with a lot of point guards these days.
My final sophomore of intrigue is Mikey Lewis. He's just able to score the basketball. He's able to create advantages on the ball, score the basketball at each level. Coming in at 17.4 points right now, 42% from three. He's able to have the ball in hand and get to his spot. He's able to finish at multiple levels. And he's got some real, just some kind of real intrigue to his game as a scoring off-ball guard.
Yep. And I'll give one more of these guards, Junie Mobley at Ohio State, really high-level shooter. The questions, again, are going to be height. If you're going to be a guy who plays a little bit more off the ball, he doesn't quite have the height to match up on the defensive end of the court with the guys he's going to need to at the next level. Thanks for tuning in here to Three True Values Big Board. Jamie, always love breaking down these prospects with you. I know that both of us are kind of shifting our big boards around each night as we watch these games go on, as we get more and more data into the collection. We got one more month of non-conference play. It's unbelievable that we're already kind of at this point where we're the midway marker of these non-conference games, and then we get to see some real high-level conference basketball played. So we're really kind of speeding through this season. Continue to get those evaluations in, and we'll talk to you next week.
James, I appreciate you, man.
All right.